Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to tutorial 2 of our object-oriented programming course. In the previous tutorial, we saw the introduction to PHP and the prerequisites and the domain of utilization and how to set up your environment. So in this second tutorial, we are going to look at the syntaxes, variables, and how to display data on a PHP page or on a web page. Without wasting much time, we are going to go back to our main folder. You come to drive C, WAM server, 164 www. You open this www folder, or you simply click here and then you click on this WAM icon and select the www directory. So it's going to open this one. Now, in the previous video, we showed the importance of these other files and also how to create a PHP file directly. So here we don't need these files, we are going to delete them. So we are going to delete these files and then we're going to create our own file. Now we can use either Notepad, we can use either Notepad++ or we use this our IDE and insert and create our PHP file. So it all depends on you. I'll prefer we start with this one. So the first thing we are going to do here, we are going to create a new project. We'll create a project folder where we'll call it tutorial 2. Tutorial 2. We are going to open our project folder tutorial 2. So if you are using this IDE, this integrated development environment, you simply right click and then click on open. You come inside this folder and drive C. You load, let's refresh it. You load 164, this www folder, and then you load tutorial 2. Yes, and then this ID is going to load the tutorial 2. So this is the tutorial 2. As you can see, we don't have any files here apart from this one that has been created. Now if you want to create, okay, let's come back there. Now if you want to create a folder or a file inside here, you simply right click and then you choose new PHP file. You can enter the name of the PHP file. Let's say first, we just call it first, and then we click on OK. You click on OK, is going to create a file first.php. If you come back here, you realize that this is the first.php file. You can still double click it or you open it, and then you realize that the file, this is the same file that was created that other way. Now for those who cannot double click and open it like this, you simply right click on this PHP file, go to properties, and then here you select change. Okay, it's because we already have this one installed. Okay, there's a way to, you go to programs. It's because I've already defined my Notepad++ as a default. You go to programs, you open program files, and then you come inside this folder, you open them, drive C, program files, you look for Notepad++, and then you select this notepad.exe. If you select it like that, you're going to the display of your PHP file is going to show like this. Now let's get back to Notepad++. Now if you want to open or create that file coming from Notepad++, you open your Notepad++, or you simply come here, you right click, you go to new, the file, and then you enter maybe second.php, and then you validate. That's the same thing, that's the same file that has been created. If you come now inside this IDE, you realize that the second is already there, that has been created. So those are some of the ways that you can also use to create it. Or you come here, you select a new file, and then you click on here and then you select save as. This is your computer, you select drive C, you come down to 164, you go to www, you select that folder, and then you enter maybe the file third.php. and then you realize that that's a test.php file that has been created. You can also view it in your IDE. This is a test.php. So it all depends on you. Now, assuming we want to have deleted everything here, and then when you open your browser, that you come now back to localhost, you realize that this is the folder that is found in the root directory. This is our root directory, the www. You have the folder tutorial2. When you open the folder tutorial2, you realize we have these files, first, second, and third. So we'll open the first. This is where we are going to be working on this first. You realize that the first file is blank because there is nothing there. Okay. Now we are going to use our IDE. You can decide to use Notepad++ and so on, but let's use this IDE. It will help you guys to master some concepts easily. Now the first thing we are going to do now is the syntaxes. How are the syntaxes of PHP displayed? In order to, every PHP program or every programming language has its own syntax that are unique. The PHP program has its own syntax, the Java program has its own syntax, Python, and so on. Every programming language, and those syntaxes help, or the compiler or the processor to be able to compile the codes that are written in that particular language. For PHP, you use the less than sign, this question mark, you write PHP. You see that as you immediately start typing, this one shows you write PHP, and then that's the opening tag, and then you close it like this. Whatever is inside this tags or this syntax will be read as a PHP syntax. Anything that's outside of it cannot be considered as a PHP syntax. The same goes for if you're using Notepad++. Let's use the second one, this Notepad++. If you want to enter it, you simply write this PHP, and then you close it like this. You save your file. Now if we run this is the first file, we save it, we refresh the first file, there's no effect because the syntax cannot be visible on the page. So this is just the skeleton of a PHP syntax. The next thing we have to do now is how to write comments in PHP. You know, comments are simply codes that are not visible. They simply help to explain certain line or certain parts of your code. They are not visible on the output of your page. For example, to write a comment in PHP, use this backslash and then write maybe this is a comment. This is a comment, and then you save. You realize that this comment is different. When you refresh your page, the comment is still not visible. It cannot be seen on the page. This is a comment. We also have what we call multi-line comment. Comments that has to go through several lines. This is how a multi-line comment is written. Realize that since this IDE automatically helps you when you start writing, or when you just put like this and then you enter the first star, once you press enter, whatever you write here is considered a multi-line comment. Now if you are using Notepad++ for a multi-line comment, you simply enter this. You realize that this is not an intelligent IDE or an intelligent integrated development environment, so you have to close it like this yourself. Whatever you write inside will be considered as a comment and will not display on the page. So we'll refresh it. You realize that it will not display on the page. So that was just like explaining a comment. Comment can be used to explain or to define or to better understand part of a particular of a code or part of a line or a line that you don't understand. Going straight to variables, I think that's our next part. Let me be sure. Variables and how to define them. In PHP, in order to define a variable, we use the $sign. The $sign. We'll talk of $sign like this. $x stands for a variable. That's how we define variables in PHP. For example, if you say $x is equal to 10, every PHP statement must end with a semicolon. $x is equal to 10. It simply means that 10 has been assigned to the variable x. 10 has been assigned to the variable x. Now if you save your code and then you launch this, nothing is displayed. Why is nothing displayed? Simply because the data has not been displayed. That comes to the last part of this, displaying data. In order to display data, you use the keyword echo. Echo simply means displaying. If we echo $x, we are echoing $x, we are not echoing x. If you echo x or $x, pardon, that's what is going to display. If we come back here and then we'll replace this 10 by let's say 54, we refresh the page, 54 is being displayed. This echo is PHP functions are not case sensitive. It means that you can still write echo like this and then you still display. Let's change x to 145 and then you refresh, you still display. But PHP variables are case sensitive, which means that if you enter $x and then you click on refresh, you see undefined variable x. It's saying undefined variable x because this x is written in uppercase, in capital letter, whereas variables in PHP are case sensitive but functions are not case sensitive. You're supposed to write $x small x or x in lowercase because the x has been defined in lowercase. Now let's look at this. If I define $x in capital letter as, let's say 67, and then I'm echoing $x small x, when I refresh the page, it's showing 145. 145 is the small x, but if I echo the capital X, it's showing 67. This is because in PHP, like I said, variables are case sensitive. Now we also have what we call inline comments. If I want to comment about this, I'll just simply put like this. I say this is for defining a variable. Now this comment at this point is simply to define or to say that this line is used to define a variable. Now the next one, the multi-line comment. Assuming I want to, you realize that I'll say here we are defining something else. You realize that this is a multi-line comment. It does not affect the running of the code because the comment syntax has been respected. We've closed the comment, and if we run our code, you realize that nothing has been affected. So that's how comments and multi-line comments. The next part of variables which we are going to show is how to manipulate variables. Now remember, we have defined our x and capital X. One thing that's important in programming is variable definition should reflect what you're trying to talk about. You can maybe, assuming this is a big project, you've defined small x and capital X. In the long run, it's going to be confusing. So it's preferable to define variables with different names. Here we can call this one y. And here now I want to do a small sum, or want to manipulate variables. I want to do the sum of x and y. So we'll say $x plus $y. Remember, it is not x plus y because variables in PHP are not defined as x or y. In other languages, you can define a variable simply by x or y. But in PHP, it should be $. You need to have the $sign in front of every variable. Now, we want to do echo x plus y. Echo x plus y simply sums x and y. So we come and we refresh. You realize we have 212. It has done the sum of x and y. Now, we also have what we call data types. We are going to come to it. I think we have it under data types and so on. Data types the next lesson, which has to do with we have the various types of data. Let me come here and just put it on here. Data types. We have integers. We have integers, float, double. We'll come to it. Strings, booleans, and so on. These are various data types. When we talk of integer, integer is simply a whole number, 1 2 3 4 5 6 and so on. Any whole number is an integer. When we talk of float, $z, let's say 6.5. 6.5 can be defined as a float. A float is generally defined as a simple data type with 1 or 2 decimal places. That's what we define as a float. For a double, let's say we'll call this variable $w. For a double, it can be, let's say 8 point blah 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 blah. That is an example of a double with many decimal places. That can be considered as a double. Okay, so for a string, in order to define a string, for a string is simply something like, let's say $t is I am learning, for example. That's a string. A string should be defined or should be written in quotes. Strings should be written in quotes like this, either double or single quotes. So, and the string now should be inside string here. String, no be draw, so string. So here, this is an integer, this is an integer, this is a double, a float, this is a double, this is a string. Now for Boolean, we say maybe we can just call it, let me call it $bool is equal to true. It can be true or false depending on you. So let me call this $float. So for better understanding, $double. Sorry, $double, $string, $float, and let's say $int1, or let me just maintain it to $x. Now remember, double itself is a function, float and so on, they are all functions, but here we've defined, we are calling $float and so on. Here is just to tell you that a float is like this, a double is like this, a string is like this. It must not necessarily be bool, string and so on. Now we want to manipulate this data, or want to manipulate this information. This is where we stand. Now if we refresh our page, nothing will display because we have not echoed. We have not displayed any information. So now I want to manipulate this. We've already done the addition. Now I want to do the multiplication. Is echo, let's say echo $x times $y. We display, that's the product of the two. If we want to do the difference, is $x minus $y. That's the difference, and so on. The quotient, $x divided by $y. You realize that the answer there is a float. So that's just doing like the basic arithmetic operations. Now if we want to manipulate this string, we have what we call concatenation. Concatenation simply means to join. Concatenate means to join a string, to join two strings, or to join a variable to another variable. That's the meaning of concatenate. We simply join, and to concatenate we use the full stop. We use the full stop to concatenate a string to a variable. Yeah. We use a full stop to concatenate a string to a variable. For example, we want to say, let's call another string, let's define another variable, another string 2. String 2, we call it, I am learning, let's say OOP. Yeah, let's just call it like that. I'm learning OOP. Now I want to concatenate string 1 and string 2. But before I forget, there's something about variable definition. Variable definition. You have to know that a variable definition should not contain a space. Variable definition should not contain a space. When we talk of space, it simply means you cannot define string or string like this. It's no longer a variable. You have an error. It has to be one word. You can define a variable, let's say $my name is equal to Paul, for example. $my name can be considered as a variable, but $my, like this name, cannot be considered as a variable. It simply gives an error. Now, $my stroke name cannot be considered as a variable. $my underscore name can be considered as a variable. That's why I recommend we use an IDE here, or we use this IDE, because it simply helps you to see some errors easily. And if you put your mouse over, or you put the mouse on it, it will simply tell you where the error is coming from. So there are some rules to variables. You just go through the PDF. To variable definition, you go through the PDF I have uploaded. A variable should not also start with a digit. Vars should not start with numbers. Should not start with numbers. How do we call these things? With signs, I don't know, and all these other signs. For example, if you want to define a variable my name, it should not start with $to my name. You cannot define a variable like that. Or $.my name. A variable cannot be defined like that. A variable should always start with letters, be it uppercase, lowercase, and so on. So this is an example of a good variable. Now, we want to say want to do now concatenation, which means to simply join a variable to another. And remember, for strings, we simply write strings in quote. But if a string has already been defined in quote, it is now a variable. It is no longer considered as a string. I repeat, if a string has already been defined in quote, this is a string, this is a string, and then this is a string. We said strings are defined, are written in quote. Now I want to just simply echo $string. Now the string here is I am learning. We refresh, it displays I am learning. Now I want to display string 2. String 2. We refresh, OOP PHP. So it's going to display the string 2. Now we want to display I am learning PHP OOP. So in this case we use concatenation. We write string 1 dot, we are concatenating the second string, dot string 2. So it's going to take string 1 and join to string 2. So it says I am learning OOP. You realize already it's joined, because in the code we just said that it should be joined. If you want to create maybe a space, you use, because a space is considered as a string, you join like this and then you create a space. This one is already a string that you are concatenating to this variable and this other variable. So we have a space here. So if we save and we run, it's going to say I am learning PHP OOP. Anything you write here, BBB, anything you write here is going to display like this. So this is how we concatenate strings. Now if you want to concatenate, a string after, for example, you say my name is, you want to say my name is Paul. You will not say my name is Paul. You're not going to say my name is Paul like this. No, because Paul is already a variable. What if your name now is Jude, and here you've already said your name is Paul? What happens? It still remains your name is Paul, because here you wrote your name is Paul. But it should rather be your name is what? Your name is my name. So here it should be my name is, since you're concatenating the string, my name. It should be my name is my name, where this my name is a variable that contains your name. So if we refresh, it should say my name is Jude. If I come here, I change my name is Oko. We refresh, it says my name is Oko, and so on. Now we want to say my name is Oko and I am 67 years. We are concatenating. We still use this. My name is Oko and I am, do you write 67 years? No, you write and I am $y, or since it's concatenation, $y years. When you refresh, it says my name is Oko and I am 67 years. Yeah, Please, maybe you should have your jotters so you can be jotting down some stuff. So it's not just all about watching the video. You can be watching the video and be doing it in practice, and maybe replace it with other stuff. Try to do some small manipulations. So here you say my name is my name, and I am this years. Now there is another way of writing the same thing. We comment here, and then we want to say echo. You want to display everything as a string. You say my name is dollar my name. Dollar my name. Let's come back here. Let me show you guys something. Where am I? You come. My name is Oko. Okay, so my name is this, and I am $year old. That's it. It does the same thing. So you can choose either you use this first method, or you use the second method. It all depends on you. You can use the concatenation, or you write directly inside the variable. So it all depends on you. Okay, we are going to look now at, we've already seen data types, where we talked of the different data types that exist. There are so many. We also have arrays. We are going to see arrays. I think there's a place down there where we are going to see is arrays and sorting of arrays. So we are going to look into arrays later. We've seen the data types. We've seen already syntaxes, variables, how to display data. We've seen also some data types and how to define them, where we said this is for an integer, and then this is for a float, and this is for a double, this is for a string and boolean, and so on. So now we're going to look at constants and how to define constants in PHP. Now when we talk of a constant, let me comment this one, it might help someone. Now we'll talk of constants in PHP. Constants are defined using the keyword define. The syntax of a constant is like this, where we have the name and I think the name and the constant variable. That's how a constant is defined. We'll have the constant, name, and variable. That's how we define a constant. Now this name simply stands for what you want the constant to be, and here is the name of the constant, and then here is the constant variable that you want it to be. We want to define this our constant. Let's say okay, let me use something else. Christmas. Let's say we want to call this constant Christmas, and then what we want to be displayed in is say Merry Christmas to you. So that's how we've defined the constant. We've created a constant called Christmas, and then we are defining it as Merry Christmas to you. Now if we echo, what are we echoing? We are echoing Christmas. Now look at something with this IDE. When you start writing Christmas, you realize that Christmas has already been assigned to what? Christmas has already been assigned to a string. So since you're using this IDE, you realize now that it is saying echo Christmas. Now when you come and refresh it, it's saying Merry Christmas to you, because this constant has been defined. Now what's the importance of a constant in a code? A constant, when you define a variable as a constant, that the value of that variable does not change all throughout the code, or all throughout your all the files or all the classes that use that particular constant. You simply call them and you use them. That's one nice thing, or something that's good about a constant. Constants are global variables. It means you can use them in the entire scope of your project. Now let's look at something. Let's say we want to try a constant with no we're already talking about. I just want to show you some more example, but we'll come back to PHP functions. I just want to show you how a constant works. Now we want to create a function. Let me say show my constant. Just the name of the constant I want to display. Show my constant. Now we've already called this, define this constant Christmas. Now this show my constant should simply say echo Christmas, right? Echo Christmas. We are not echoing out anything, so we come back to this page and then we refresh. it is not showing any information. Why? Because we have not yet echoed something. It was echoed in a function, but that function has not yet been called. So in order to display it, we just simply say show my constant. Since, like I said, this id is very intelligent, show my constant, you just simply click on it, and then that's it. This is a function we created. So this is a function here. We refresh our browser. Merry Christmas to you. So it's simply calling now this Christmas that was defined inside this global variable or this constant. So what else do we need to do here? Data type, strings, and so on. So this is where we come to the end of this second tutorial. Like we said, the second tutorial entails explaining syntaxes, variables, how to display data, the various data types, strings, and constant. So you can just have a look at this and then try to produce something even better than this. So don't bother, there are other tutorials where we'll talk about functions, arrays, and strings. So this for now is just like the introduction, the initiation to PHP. So we'll end here for the second tutorial.